Marketer of the Day, Episode 717. Digital Storytelling, Blockchain, Cryptocurrency, Smart Contracts, and Initial Coin Offerings, ICOs, with cryptopreneur Dennis Lewis. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are here with Mr. Dennis Lewis, who is a seasoned digital storyteller. He's a blockchain marketing specialist, and he has successfully led to market and exited multiple startup companies. And Dennis prides himself on his ability to make complex projects easy to understand and relatable. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of things like blockchain, cryptopreneurs, and just how you too can take your idea into reality and not fizzle out, right? How to navigate the startup stuff and how to just get some things done. So, Dennis, glad to be talking to you.
Hey, it's a real pleasure to be on your show.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here, and it's always cool to get people from different walks of life. And as you know, sometimes all this technology stuff changes so much, but at the end of the day, like it's fine to have little hobbies and fun things to do, but we have to make money and grow stuff and not waste time. So, what have you been up to, say, in the past 6 to 12 months, and what just has you excited these days? What has been popular? What's been making money for you?
Wow. Okay. Well, sure. I'm just going to turn off the video there because it's eating up some bandwidth. But yeah, it's I've been in this marketing business for far too many years. You've seen the gray hair on my head now, so I'm what I like to consider a crypto geezer. And for the last few years, we've been working almost exclusively with technology and blockchain technology companies. We've helped them raise a lot of money and we've seen just so many projects from the inside out. And this is an amazing area of innovation and promise. And I think it's just time for it to be delivered and time for these projects to come aboard and start making people's lives better. And as a marketer, as I do, that it's all about solving the problem. It's all about making something better for somebody, because otherwise you're just scratching your belly button, right?
Yeah. It probably feels good for you to change the world and to leave your mark. And so we mentioned a couple of times here this whole like blockchain thing, and I know that it's a little difficult for people to wrap their heads around this idea that there's like the cloud out there, and because things are kind of distributed in a way, then things are kind of permanent there and set in stone, and you can't delete data because it's all out there. And that has ways that can be used in money, but also non-money uses, right?
Oh, definitely. So yeah, let's kind of jump from the beginning and say, a blockchain technology is nothing more than a really fancy bookkeeping system. All it is an accounting system. It's for keeping track of data of transactions. And the thing that makes it so special is that, as you just said, it's distributed over thousands of computers all around the world, working together, synchronized, which means that it's very secure. There's no single point of failure, and it allows for a whole new concepts of business modeling that beforehand weren't possible. So you're right. It has implications with money and with cryptocurrencies, but it goes far beyond that. It's blockchain can help us improve our democracy. It can help us improve healthcare. It can help us improve supply chains. It can help us improve our social media and marketing. There's just almost an unending list of use cases for this amazing technology.
So there's this huge list, and I have to admit that I've only heard like a few of the uses, because again, sometimes it's really abstract and they get into the geek speak and they say, well, it has this such and such redundancy. And I think, well, what about actual real life purposes? And I've heard about things like, well, as far as like you mentioned, democracy, you can have voting where you can see how everyone voted, but it doesn't reveal like the identities, and things like, I know someone who has like a dating app where two people can like mark in the app that they've both consented, and it like stores it, in the blockchain. So that way it's like a real verifiable sort of thing. So with all the possibilities and all the things happening, are there like maybe one or two areas where this blockchain thing is really going to do something new and crazy, and it has you really excited?
Sure. So, the voting thing you said is interesting, but voting fraud probably isn't really that big of a problem. At least in the U.S. In other countries, it may very well be. But but let me open another door similar to that. Imagine if every government transaction were publicly recorded on the blockchain, and we could actually go in there and see every transaction that the government makes and follow the trail and know that every time they spend our tax money, it's immutably recorded for everybody to be able to make sure and see if it's a valid use. That's a pretty amazing thing. I mean, imagine then being able to search that database and detect if people are getting kickbacks, or if money is going in strange circles, or who's actually receiving the funds. These sorts of questions would be pretty awesome for making us aware of really how they're using our resources.
And as you're describing that, I imagine that maybe people think that might be a little precarious, right? Because it is tough to get your head around that. It's like there's no way to fake it. It's not like one copy of this ledger stored on one hard drive and someone can go and edit it. It's out there with so many multiple copies. Like you'd have to take over half the network.
Yeah, you would have to simultaneously hack thousands and thousands of computers at the same precise instant to be able to actually hack the blockchain. So yeah, that is actually one of its strongest features, is that it is immutable. It's pretty much it's mathematically it's built by mathematical algorithms that make it practically impossible to hack or to distort. Which is, definitely opens the door to all sorts of positive aspects, and it also opens the door to some complications. I mean, that means that anything that's recorded on the blockchain, it's not going away. It's going to be there forever. That means you gotta deal with that.
Right. And I can see how that would make some people sort of uncomfortable. So as far as you and the project you've worked on, have you been working on this sort of thing, or like other various implementations?
Sure. So I work with a lot of blockchain companies. We work with their messaging. We work with their marketing. We help them raise funds. And a lot of what I've learned is that this industry, while technologically very, very promising, is still in its infancy as far as entrepreneurship. So a lot of the projects that I've seen have suffered because of very simple basics of business, of having the right agreements in place with your partners, knowing what to do with the money after you've actually raised it, and how to administer it, and how to make sure that you're not wasting the resources you have, and how to best communicate with your stakeholders so that they understand the vision that you're building. And these are sort of the problems that I've seen, and that I think are really the fundamental reasons why this industry is, once it solves these problems, is going to take off. Because it really is a technology that can improve lives. It can improve society in a lot of different ways. One thing I like to talk about is healthcare. Every time you go to the doctor, that doctor has a database of the information that he takes about you. And then if he sends you to go do some tests, then they give there's some test results, and those are on somebody else's computer. And then you go to the hospital, and that they have their own system. And all that information is spread out in all these sort of vaguely disconnected systems, and you have no control over it. It doesn't belong to you, and it's all your intimate health information. Imagine if we could turn that over, and you controlled the keys to all of your health information, and you decided when the doctors should have access to it and to what, and when that access should be revoked. Now your information is all is available to whoever needs it, but with your consent. Those are the sort of models that before the blockchain were practically impossible. and now they're becoming possible.
Yeah, this sounds amazing. Once we can get some of the stubbornness out of the way, right? Once we can get people like making whatever agreements or adopting some of these systems, and as you're describing some of this, I'm honestly not sure about the answer to this question, but I'm guessing that maybe there might be some kind of like a little bit of like the .com frenzy. As you remember, like 20 years ago, there was that whole problem of if someone was an internet company, then some of these venture capitalists would just like give them money and they weren't really sure like what they were creating, and the software wouldn't really work. And I mean, is there any of that happening with like the blockchain and the AI stuff? Are there like investors
Yes.
out there who just jump on and they're just excited, but then no one really knows what they're supposed to do, and then there's a lot of kind of like money going up in flames?
Yeah, 2017 was a crazy year. I'll tell you that. In 2017, there was more money raised for blockchain startups through token sales, through ICOs, than the entire startup venture capital market. Just to give you an idea of the scale. And you're right, a lot of that money went up in flames, and it went up in flames for some of the business reasons I was talking about earlier. Like any new industry, there's a lot of hype. There's a learning curve. This isn't, that was a very Wild West sort of time. Fortunately, I think we're getting over that. That's kind of the market has corrected itself a bit, and we're starting to realize that the good of everybody for the industry and for everybody involved is that projects have to deliver. They have to deliver on the promises they make, and they have to be real, because otherwise it's just it's just smoke and mirrors. And that in the long term is a pretty fragile way to build an industry. So that was kind of one of the reasons I wrote the book, is just to talk about that, because you're right, there was a real kind of boom mentality, and it hasn't gone away, but it has been tempered a bit, which is a good thing.
Right. It's like that era that you mentioned there. It seemed a little scary, like with all the ICOs, or people would say, "I'm launching this new coin," and when you buy the coin, you're basically investing in the shares of this company, and it sounded really shady, especially because here in America, you don't mess with the money system, right? You don't touch the U.S. dollar. You don't want to infringe on any of that. That's like the biggest no-no. The government hates that, and so it seemed like just a really I don't know, like scary, shady thing that people were doing. And so you mentioned that you put out this book to talk about some of these topics. So can you tell us what this book is called, and what's in it, and why we should get it, things like that?
Sure. So the book is called Behold the Cryptopreneurs, and it's out on Amazon. It's on paper version. It's in Kindle version. So Behold the Cryptopreneurs. And users can also, anybody listening out there can get the first 4 chapters for free by going to my website, cryptopreneurs.club. And you can get the first 4 chapters there. You can get your toe in the water, and then you can jump over to Amazon and grab the whole book. And to go back to what you were saying, well, there's always 2 sides to the coin. You're right that there were some abuses of the ICO kind of boom that was there. But it also gave birth to some really interesting new phenomena. The idea that by creating a new coin and launching it, you can fundraise for a project and build a community of enthusiastic people. It opens a new way of finding resources for interesting projects that kind of goes beyond, dare I say, the gentleman's club of VC, right? The venture capital is very much a closed sort of circuit of who do you know and are you in the right place? And this opened the door to a lot of really interesting projects. So some of them have failed. Some of them failed spectacularly. Some were scams. You're right. But a lot of other ones are out there still working really hard, and they're delivering. So I think that we need to learn the lessons, and obviously you projects have to play by the rules, and they have to be If you're offering a security, then you have to follow the securities law. I mean, that's just common sense. I mean, it doesn't matter how you do something. If you're doing it, you have to do it legally. And I think a lot of projects have realized that there were some corners were cut maybe, but in the long run, it needs to be done right.
Right, and the way you're describing that, it seems like it's kind of like any tool can be used good or used bad. Like a hammer, you can use it to hammer nails and build a house, or you can use it to break a window, steal something. So it's how you use it. And so in this book, like what sort of like categories, areas do you go into in this book?
So I talk about, from a sort of a holistic point of view, for two sides. One is for the industry, the problems I've seen and the solutions that I propose for fixing some of these problems, and also for the entrepreneur in general. I try to open their eyes to some of the possibilities. Because I believe that every entrepreneur right now needs to be learning about crypto, learning about blockchain, and at least minimally thinking about how they can leverage it to make their business better, because it's going to happen. And if you're not doing it, your competitor will be. Just even if it's just right now sticking your foot in the water and accepting cryptocurrency as payment for your products and your services, that's a very good first step. And there's $250 billion in digital assets out there that a lot of people don't know where to spend them. And, getting real resources that way is an awfully good idea in my opinion. So I cover things like a concept we call a distributed ICO. I talk about some of the pitfalls, some of the dangers, some of the ways that entrepreneurs can leverage this technology to build better businesses.
Well, great. And it's like that saying that from Bill Gates that all you have to do is figure out where the wave's coming, right? Like there's a new wave coming every 3 to 5 years. Position yourself in front of the wave, and then that way you can reap the benefits. And like you said, there are always going to be those businesses that just stay stagnant and aren't tuned into the latest and greatest things happening. So we have that decision to make to either be one of those businesses that is never really on the cutting edge, it's always a little bit late to the party, or maybe at least pick up this book at cryptopreneurs.club. And at the very least, check out those first 4 chapters. But if you like what you read, get that whole book. So that way we can be on the cutting edge. And if this things like distributed ICOs for fundraising or any other purpose makes sense for us in our business, then we can be some of the leaders, the innovators, the early adopters in our industry while everyone else is going to catch up. And I also imagine that even just for most of us getting our head wrapped around this idea of the distributed database might even take a few years of just like thinking it over for it to finally click. So when it does come time for our businesses to use blockchain in some way or another, then this way we won't have to rush. We'll be prepared, or we can begin experimenting. So along the lines of looking ahead into the future here, Dennis, is there anything that is like just like way out there and isn't like physically possible yet, but may someday be, and it's just like in its early stages? Anything like that come to mind as far as like the real future blockchain stuff that excites you?
Well, there's 2 things I'd say. One is that, it is true that blockchain is not ready yet for massive global levels of transactions like Visa or MasterCard are processing right now. We haven't quite achieved that level of transactions per second. But that to me is plumbing. It'll be there. When we need it when it has to be there, they'll figure it out. I would say, though, that probably the idea that is most inspiring for most entrepreneurs is the idea of a smart contract. And a smart contract is built on top of the blockchain, and it's just an algorithm. It's a program, a computer program, you might say, that embodies a contract. And it could be super simple or amazingly complex. But let's just give an example for you. Let's imagine that you and I are going to joint venture, and we're going to offer a product for sale. And I get 30% and you get 70%. Well, normally in a situation like that, you would get paid and then you would send me my cut, right? You would send me my 30%. And that's okay normally, unless, of course, you have been in the situation that we've all been in when your partner doesn't pay you your share for XYZ reasons. Well, a smart contract solves that problem. Customer would pay the contract and automatically you receive your 70%, I receive my 30%. And there's no disputes, there's nothing, there's no cheating, there's no it does what it does. And that's just an example of something really simple, a very simple smart contract, but they can get much more complicated. And this opens the door to all sorts of automated business processes that actually move money and improve efficiencies, because it doesn't require any administration. It doesn't require human intervention. Once it's deployed forever, and it will always work exactly the same way. So, as a concept for an entrepreneur, just start imagining what you could do by, deploying these smart contracts to improve the efficiency of your business and to eliminate risk and to reduce the time for money to flow through your business process. There's so much to be gained there.
That is super cool. And so even that idea of smart contracts is something that we should look into. So that is all the more reason to pick up a copy of this book, Behold the Cryptopreneurs. So that way you can maybe take a break from your business or take a break from thinking about all the day-to-day busyness that you're currently dealing with and let your imagination run wild. Think about some of these possibilities and heck, maybe you've even had in the back of your mind that thought, that idea of you creating some kind of a blockchain-based platform, app, startup. Well, maybe this is a great starting point for you to crack open this book, read through, get some ideas, have Dennis explain to you the problems and the solutions and the possibilities. It's really exciting stuff, and we need to be ahead of it, not behind it. So cryptopreneurs.club is the place to be. And is there anything that comes to mind here, Dennis, to wrap up our conversation here? Anything you think that we either left out or should just throw in there at the end here so that way people can get things nicely wrapped up in a bow?
Yeah, I think we've covered an awfully lot. I think it's great. Just don't let it overwhelm you. This is like any other technology. Yeah, there's a learning curve. There's some stuff that maybe, stretches you may have to stretch yourself a little bit to really wrap your head around it, but it's not that hard. You'll get there. So I would say, now is the time to start educating yourself, start preparing, start thinking, and start trying to position your business ahead of that wave, because it's not just a little wave. This is a real tsunami coming. So this is one to watch.
So be prepared. So cryptopreneurs.club is the place to go. And the book is Behold the Cryptopreneurs. We'll see you there. Go there, grab it. You're going to love the book, I promise. And thanks so much, Dennis, for stopping by and telling us what we need to know about all kinds of subjects that we covered, right? ICOs, blockchain, startups. Really appreciated our conversation here.
Thank you very much. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Please subscribe, rate, and review our show at marketeroftheday.com/iTunes and like us on Facebook at marketeroftheday.com/Facebook.